You will have noticed so far that the discussion has been about changes in body, shape and colour. This is all very well, but psychology is concerned with behaviour. So what can the theory of natural selection tell us about that? Each species has evolved its own set of inherited behaviours. In courtship, fish dance a zigzag pattern, birds sing elaborate songs, and male deer fight each other for possession of females. But according to the theory, each inherited behaviour has, at some time in the evolutionary past, given the individual that possessed it an advantage to survive and reproduce over those who did not possess that behaviour. Gradually, the behaviour spreads until all members of the species have inherited it. In Darwin's world, individuals are selfish. They must be, if each animal is forced to compete with others within their own species for their territories, their food and mates. Dog eat dog is the basic tenet in the animal world. There are many examples of apparent selfish behaviour by animals. The female mantis often eats the male after successful mating. She selfishly not only gets her eggs fertilised, but has a tasty meal at the same time. Some male gulls, who have no young of their own, eat the eggs and chicks of fellow gulls, an extremely selfish act. Male lions practice infanticide by killing the cubs of their other male lions. Indeed, observers are discovering that when food is short, instances of cannibalism in the animal kingdom are widespread, with mothers sometimes eating their own young. These examples of selfishness seem to support Darwin's theory that animals act in order to optimize their own survival and their need to breed. However, Darwin was also aware that animals will frequently help each other. And it's these acts of altruism that originally caused the most problems for the theory of natural selection. Altruism occurs when an animal puts its own life at risk in order to help another to survive. For example, when a predator approaches a ground-nesting plover bird who is incubating her eggs, she doesn't leave them. Instead, she lures the predator away by pretending to have a damaged wing. Once the predator is far from the nest, the mother will fly back and resume her nesting behaviour. This is altruistic behaviour, since the mother is putting herself in jeopardy in order to protect her young. Female lions hunt in twos and threes, and when they succeed in catching a zebra or deer, they share it with the other members of their pride. If they were selfish, the hunters would surely eat it all and let the other members get on with themselves. Perhaps the most extreme altruistic act is carried out by worker bees when they defend the colony. When they attack a predator, the barbed sting is ripped out of their body, killing them in the process. So we have a contradiction. On one hand, we have Darwin's theory stating that no individual animal can show concern to others if in doing so its own welfare is threatened. And on the other, we have many examples of extreme self-sacrifice. Darwin faced this problem in his writings, but was unable to resolve it to his satisfaction. A theory which does solve this paradox was presented by W.D. Hamilton in the 1960s. He carried out brilliant mathematical calculations using modern knowledge of genetics to form his idea of kin selection. Hamilton showed that the more closely related two individuals are by their genes, the more they will value each other's offspring. So, in the animal kingdom, siblings are more likely to help one another than unrelated individuals, and mothers are more likely to help their own young than unrelated infants. Richard Dawkins uses his skill as a writer to explain the process to us in more simple terms. In his book, The Selfish Gene, Dawkins argues that altruism in the animal kingdom is really selfishness in disguise. He argues that the genes which reside in every cell of an animal's body fight each other for their place on the chromosomes of the eggs or sperm. The genes that win are selfish genes and make each individual animal fight for their existence and their need to reproduce. Dawkins' explanation makes kin selection easy to understand. Mothers protecting their offspring are protecting future generations of their genes. This is often referred to as an example of direct fitness. since it's a measure of the number of surviving offspring produced directly by the individual. Bees committing suicide in order to protect the hive can also be seen as acting selfishly. Since they're infertile themselves, they ensure that their genes are passed on by protecting their siblings who share the same genes. This is referred to as an example of indirect fitness, since it is a measure of the number of surviving offspring by other members of the family who would not have existed without the help of the kind relation. Together, direct and indirect fitness make up the inclusive fitness of an individual. Well, this is all very well, but what about acts of altruism where there is clearly no kin relationship at all? For example, Packer, in 1977, studied a male baboon in the process of mating with a female. On the scene came two unrelated males. One distracted the consort male into a fight while the other started copulating with the female. Here, one baboon had put its life at risk in order to allow his companion to mate with the female. Closer study, however, shows that on a later occasion the two baboons reversed their roles. As a result, by working together, the two baboons achieved more matings than if they'd done it alone. R.L. Trivers refers to this as reciprocal altruism, a case of you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Other acts of apparent altruism are no more than trickery, according to zoologists. When the cuckoo lays its eggs in the nests of other species, the surrogate parents feed it because they're pre-programmed to feed empty mouths. They gain nothing from their altruism. They have simply been tricked by the cuckoo into feeding the wrong species. To summarize, altruism can be seen as selfishness in disguise because it always provides an advantage to the individual. Or in biologists' terms, for altruism to evolve, it must bring some advantage to the genes. It can be explained in three ways. First, by kin selection, where closely related individuals share a high proportion of their genes and therefore have a reason to help each other. Secondly, when individuals who are not related gain in some way from their cooperation, a tit-for-tat relationship known as reciprocal altruism occurs. And thirdly, an individual is helping but has been tricked into doing so and has to pay the cost. It's not uncommon in textbooks to read that animals act to help the survival of their species. Indeed, Konrad Lorenz maintained that animals don't fight to the death because it's their way of ensuring that their species survives. It's hoped that sufficient has been said in this film so far for you to know that animals do act for themselves rather than for the good of the species.